Hello, I'm Kristen, and I'm so happy that you're here because today we're going to talk about how to stop starting and stopping and starting and stopping. What is the cycle all about and how to break it? Because I need this for myself. I am in a place where I'm like, I don't want that to be a pattern anymore. And that can be a pattern for a lot of us, especially if we are performers or we are perfectionists, we are achievers, or we're people who tend to get really excited and hyper-focused and run pretty fast. Because we're like, boom, 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 running. And then we kind of stop and we're like, now, what are we doing? And all these questions come in, and there's so many reasons that can cause the stop if we're not careful. And so I don't want that to keep happening in my life. I don't want it to happen in yours, because why? We could end up not living the life that God has planned for us. We could end up not fulfilling that vision that we have. And that would make me really sad. Like, I don't know about you, but when I think about the end of my life, I want to be able to look back on it and be like, I did the things. Like, I fulfilled that vision that God showed me so many times. I walked in it, and I did it without losing my peace and without costing my family. And costing your family can be one of those things that does cause us to stop. But before I get ahead of myself, let's dive into the 3 points and what they are. So the first one is, we have to solidify why we're doing what we're doing to begin with and get clear on what our values are. So we're clear on the season that we're in. The second thing is to show up even when you don't feel like it. And the third point is to shine, keep shining, even when it feels small and even when it doesn't feel like it matters. Just keep shining, keep doing the thing, even when you're not seeing the results. Okay. So the first one is solidify why you are doing what you're doing. When you lose sight of your why and you get misaligned with your values, you can end up creating this crazy, chaotic, overwhelming schedule, mindset, and inner world that you never meant to create. Sometimes we just get ahead of ourselves and we forget what the original goal was. For example, I was talking to my friend the other day. She's really popping off and thriving in her business. And I asked her, like, are you enjoying it? And she said, I checked in with myself the other day and I was separating between the cake and the crud. And what she meant by that was what's fulfilling her and what's not. What's in alignment with her values and her gifts and what isn't. And she's like, and what I realized is I'm only doing like 10 to 20% of the cake and the rest of it is crud. And she's like, I realized it was never my goal to pop off and be this huge number one business in my industry. But that's a goal that my business coach has and has been like fueling me with. But I realized I don't need to do that, and I don't want to do that. It's draining me, not energizing me. And I thought, wow, that's so good. And even for me in this season, knowing the season that you're in, she's a mom. She's like, I'm spending all this time working, and here I am again, not spending time with my kids. And that's the reason I got out of my corporate job to begin with, is to spend time with my kids. And here I am building this business and not spending time with my kids. So it's like, okay, yeah. So let's just get back with ourselves and solidify, get clear on like, now what are our values? What do we want this to look like? If we are going to be creating something or stepping into a career or a calling or something God has put on your heart, what does it look like? How big is it? How much time do you want it to take? How much time do you have capacity for it to take without losing your peace and without it costing your family? So that's really helpful. Number 2 is show up even when you don't feel like it. Something that stops us after we get going is poor results. Okay. We're not getting the results that motivate us. And man, I noticed this for me. Okay. And we get that from childhood. We get that from getting those rewards, those reward stickers, the getting ice cream if you do that, or getting a party if you do this, or whatever it is. And so we're trained from a really young age to look for outside rewards to motivate us. And so if we want to stay consistent, we have to be women who motivate our own selves. And the reason and the way that we do that is by celebrating our small wins and letting the process itself be the reward. Something my mom always asked me growing up, because I was a child who looked for external validation, especially from my parents. I would do something and I would look to her and say, like, are you proud of me? Or what did you like about that? And she would always say, don't you feel proud of yourself? Like, feel proud of yourself. And I always got like a little annoyed by that, because I'm like, well, what? And so we need to develop our own inner voice and trust ourselves and be our own encourager and motivator to be like, no, that feels really good to write a goal, to set a goal, and to show up for it and to do it regardless of the results, because this is about showing up for you. This is about showing up for God and what He has called you to do, regardless of the outcome, regardless of how many people watch. It's the process of becoming. For instance, even doing these YouTube messages, I have to remember my why and the season that I'm in as a mom. Like, I'm so tempted to want to pop it off and get all these results of really big views and subscribers and to have a big network television show because of it, right? Because that's just how I'm wired. Like, once I'm doing something, I'm like, okay, how big can we make it be? And so that can be something that causes us to stop because we think what we're doing is too small, that it doesn't matter. But the truth is, if God has called you to do it and He's put the dream on your heart and it's using your gifts and it causes you to be fulfilled, but the results or the lack of results are draining you, then you know that your focus is in the wrong place. But it does make sense for you to ask yourself, okay, is the time that I'm putting in worth the return on the investment? Like, am I seeing the fruit? And so sometimes we just need to redefine, what is that fruit? Like, do you think that fruit looks like numbers on your YouTube video, or does it look like, I don't know, some numerical value? Or is God calling you in this season for that fruit to look different? And trust me, more than anyone else, that is like, I'm like, that sounds really like idealistic and cute, Kristen, but like, ew, and so that's when you need to ask yourself, all right, on a practical level, can I continue on this trajectory and do it from a place of rest where my peace is not compromised and my family is not paying a price? And if not, then what are some adjustments that I can make? What adjustments do I need to make this worth it? Because one question that a lot of us have is balance even achievable? There's been seasons that I've had where in one season I'm like going full force in my coaching, my business, my speaking, my book writing, all of that. And I realize it's making me irritated and frustrated with my children. And so then I feel really guilty and I'm like, you know what? I just need to pull back on everything and be full-time mom. So then I do that. And then I'm feeling resentful of them because I'm missing a part of myself. And so now and I have found seasons before of amazing balance. And I'm getting back to that place right now. And it is really important. And I do think that balance is achievable, but it is a matter of planning. Like, you do have to plan well, plan your pockets of time that you have. I only have 2.5 days a week where I can do things that, and when I say 2.5 days, what I really mean is like 10 hours. Okay, so 10 hours where I can do something that is in alignment with my gifting outside of family life, and outside of being a mom. And so I have to be so strategic and intentional and plan that time in advance. in order to make the most of it. And so I just want to encourage you with that, like solidifying your why, knowing the season that you're in, setting realistic expectations, and maybe even getting with God and redefining what results look like that make your work and your investment worth it. Like, what do those results look like in this season for you from God? And then lastly, shine. Keep shining, even when it feels small, even when it feels like it doesn't matter. And you're like, okay, there's like 100 people watching my channel. Does it really matter? And it's like, yes, continue to show up and shine in your gifting, in your calling, even when it feels small, because it says in the Bible that those who are faithful with small things entrusted to you will then be entrusted with big things. My friend the other day texted me out of nowhere, and this is why it's so important to have good friends. And she'd been seeing the videos that I was posting, and she's like, hey, Kristen, I just want you to know, like, you were on the right track. Just remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And that is something that I needed to hear, and I need to remember. And I think that's a good word for all of us, that I think we're just used to it's hard to feel like our work is worth something or our work counts when we see other people doing a similar thing and they're getting more notoriety, more attention, more followers, more money, whatever, but like, I don't think God created us all for the same level of like fame or success in the traditional sense. But I think he created all of us to step into our calling regardless of what scale or what size it is. But it's important that we are faithful in the small seasons and do not despise the days of humble beginnings. And I don't know about some of you, but even when I say that out loud, I'm like, I feel like I've been in those days for like ever now, okay? Like forever. When are we going to get out of it? And I think part of the thing that has kept maybe some of us in those humble beginnings or smaller starts is the pattern of starting, stopping, starting, stopping, starting, stopping. And so we have to become very conscious of our patterns, aware of our thoughts and the things that usually do pop up that cause us to quit. So in closing, let's do this together. Let's stay clear and solidified on our why. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What is the goal? What does that look like? Does it align with our values? Being clear on the season that we're in so we can set realistic expectations, and showing up even when we don't feel like it, even when we're not seeing the numbers, even when we feel like it doesn't matter, just because God has called you to. And because your definition of results is going to look different now. It's going to look different than society. You're going to be able to be someone who can celebrate your own success. You're going to have intrinsic motivation, okay? You don't need to have numbers and results always be the thing that gives you the motivation you need to keep going. You're going to be someone who does it anyway, because that's what winners do. They show up even when they don't feel like it. And then lastly, keep shining even when it feels small, even when it feels like it doesn't matter. And let your self-pride, or like being proud of yourself, let yourself feel that. Like, let yourself feel like, wow, I'm really proud of myself for showing up. I'm really proud of myself for setting this goal and doing it, for living in integrity and in authenticity. So celebrate your small wins, because celebrating your small wins and being your own cheerleader is going to be so helpful and so impactful in helping you to continue show up, because we can't always rely on outside situations, outside people, all that good stuff. So ask yourself, what is one tendency that makes me stop and start? Let that be some journaling for you. Is it a belief system that you have? Is it an upper limit that you have? Is it a fear of what people think? Are you scared to be successful? Are you scared to fail? Where does it come from? Ask yourself, where does it come from? Okay, so be aware of that. So when it pops up, you're like, boom, got it. I caught it. Because when you're aware of something, it can't have control over you anymore. And then you're like, no, thank you. We're going to do things differently. Okay? We're not going to be that person who stops and starts because you don't want to keep staying in that stage of humble beginnings. You want to be a winner. You want to be the type of person who shows up. Just show up and do it. I know it's hard. I'm right there with you. I feel like I need your support. Let's be each other's support. So I hope this blesses you. Subscribe, OMG, subscribe to the channel. That would be bombdiggityfriggity.com. Follow me on Instagram at Kristen J. Dalton. I'm available for one-on-one coaching, so you can message me on Instagram for that. Comment on the YouTube video, share it in your Instagram stories. That would be so fantastic. And I would love your feedback too, as far as what topics you would like to see covered in the following weeks. So I love you. Thank you for showing up, and I'll see you next week.